You're listening to the Tuesday Review. I'm Nathan, as always, joined by James, Callum, and Alan. How you going, boys?
Not bad.
With Callum.
Not a lot. It was a busy week last week with our interview, so we're just taking it back, kicking it back, I should say, taking it easy this week, with a bit of a roundtable discussing what we've been watching lately. So I guess I'll start it off with something me and James have watched, something notable,
yes.
A new release. We both watched You'll Never Find Me on Shudder. Another Australian horror movie.
Yeah, it's also got it's also been released at the cinema here, but it's been out for a little while, so there's like one showing every couple of days.
Yeah, or it's on Shudder if you have a subscription.
Yeah.
As well.
If listeners remember, which they probably don't, because it's very obscure, but it stayed in my mind. When we were talking about all of the myth movies we saw, we were talking about all the good Aussie horror movies that were coming out that we saw. There was Late Night with the Devil,
Talk to Me,
Monolith. Talk to Me was playing outside of Myth, but that was around the same time. What was the other one?
Bird Eater.
Bird Eater, yeah. There was also Godless, which we didn't end up getting to see. But
we're at the premiere.
But yeah, we were a premiere adjacent. And also... there was another one that I was trying to think of the name when we were talking about Myth, and I was like, oh, there's all these good Aussie horror movies that we saw. There was one we didn't get to see, two we didn't get to see. One was Godless, which hopefully we'll talk about in the future. And the other one I was like, oh, it's called You're Something. This is the movie I was talking about.
Yeah, very good.
So we've
come full circle.
Yeah, so You'll Never Find Me is one of the Myth movies we missed, which... now we've been able to catch up on, which is good. I got to knock it off my list.
Yeah, I like to say, we talked about this as well when we were at our Myth kind of experience. It's good to see a lot of actually good, non-culture cringe Australian horror coming out.
Yeah, I think...
no, it's not Ozploitation, because quite a lot of the time there's kind of, we get bogged down in, for lack of the better term, Ozploitation.
Yeah.
No, that's the correct term.
I mean,
that's a term.
Core.
But like
that's a term the industry leans into.
Yeah, like Ozploitation...
Stewart's Wolf Creek.
Like, yeah.
Nah, that's more mainstream.
Like Ozploitation, though, like 70s, like grungy, like that's a great era of Australian horror movies. But then, like, yeah, after Wolf Creek took off, it all kind of got... There's a lot of Australian horror movies, but I don't remember a lot of them being very good.
Yeah.
But now it seems like there's a lot of younger filmmakers coming out with these types of movies.
Companies are throwing us some money.
Yeah,
and like A24,
especially
Shudder,
after.
I was going to say, is it also like the A24 sensibilities in the younger generation?
I think not only are the younger generation sort of filmmakers sort of being smarter about their horror and smarter about their filmmaking, but it's we're in this new genre of like the what's the word for it? There's a word for it. The higher brow, elevated horror.
Elevated horror, which
you know, we can go on all night about whether that applies or what that means, but I'm just
not all horror needs to be elevated.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like,
unfortunately, it feels sometimes that it is nowadays. That's a separate discussion.
Or it tries to be and fails. Yeah, but it seems like that at least gives filmmakers, like, they're being smarter about it, and companies like A24 are on the lookout for it. And there is these little Australian low budget horror movies which used to be, like I said, there's always a lot of them, but used to be like kind of meh. Yeah. Not even if they were bad, it's just like, oh, that was all right. Yeah. Whereas now it's like, oh, these are actually
they actually have something to say.
Yeah, the last few we have seen have been pretty good.
Yeah. I actually really, really enjoyed You'll Never Find Me. I watched it with a pair of headphones.
Yes.
I'd say the sound design on this movie is incredible.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to watch it. Yeah. I watched it on my little speakers, and even then I could tell, like...
I watched it with headphones, and it was incredible with headphones. Or Alan Deep has the Dolby Atmos sound system at home. I would recommend you watch this movie with the full Atmos capability if you have it. Because, like, a driving force of this movie is its sound design, and this weather, and there's rain, lightning, thunder, kind of like a cacophony of sound. And it's kind of like the best way to immerse yourself in this movie is through the audio.
And the way it moves around.
Yeah.
Because it takes place mostly in one location.
In like a caravan. Like not a caravan, but like a mobile home kind of thing.
So as the storm and the rain moves around and
it's not even a mobile home. It's just a small home.
It's a caravan park, but
it's like a small
one of those trailer homes you see in American movies, but it's an Australian.
It's big, but it's still like a trailer. Yeah.
And as the rain, and as the characters move, the sort of direction changes, and then obviously as the story goes on, and you're not sure what's going on, there's more eerie kind of is this supernatural?
Yeah.
Did I just hear someone whisper?
Yeah.
Is that screaming or is that wind?
Yeah, exactly.
And the sound design is really well done and elevates the movie above a lot of other similar movies.
Yeah, this is.
It also looks nice.
It is. Yeah, it looks nice, but it's the sound design that really puts this above, as you said, its competition. I recommend this movie for the sound design alone.
Yeah,
almost it's an experience.
Yeah,
it's kind of like at its core, it's just a movie about two strangers. And it's just like, who do you trust? Who do you not trust? Right? It's a very simple, basic premise. Obviously, there's more to it without talking spoilers.
Yeah, it's also a story we've seen a lot before, especially in horror movies and thrillers. But I think this movie it's such a good execution of it that I didn't mind that it's a sort of simple and common, if that's the right word, sort of setup for a horror movie.
Yeah.
Also, I know I do this a lot where I'm like, I guessed the twist or whatever, and I don't like being one of those people who's like, I guessed it. Like, I don't care. Even if I guess twist, if the movie's good, the movie's good. But I did, like I said, the setup is something we've seen before. I guessed what was going on pretty early on, just because I've seen a lot of these type of movies. And even still, because of how well executed the movie is.
I kind of called the twist right at the start. And then it was a moment about halfway through, I'm like, oh, maybe not.
Yeah.
At the end, I'm like, yeah.
Okay. But it's still, the execution of it is really so well done that it was still worth watching. And the end, which I sort of knew was coming, the end reveal, is still so well executed that it didn't matter that I sort of figured out what was going on earlier.
Yeah.
And it's a movie that I would watch again just because visually and audibly, or,
watch it with headphones.
Yeah, the visuals and sound are quite good. And it's a small, very small, probably low budget movie. Like we said, there's like two characters mainly.
Yeah.
But it's very effective. It's very tense.
Yeah.
And
I mean, it's mostly just dialogue.
Yeah, it's kind of like, the start of Barbarian where she goes to the house and the Bill Skarsgård's already in there.
It's
and it's like, do we trust him? Is he telling the truth? What's going on? Except in this movie, I liked that both characters, it sort of, for me, for a while, it started going back and forth. It was like, wait, which one should I trust? Because I don't trust...
That's the whole kind of vibe of the movie. Like, you don't trust either of these characters.
Yeah.
And you don't believe what they're saying.
Yeah.
But it's like...
Because Barbarian is like the main character. You're like, oh, no, we know
she's the good guy. But there's no clear...
Unless there's a big twist, this one was more like, hang on.
It's more ambiguous.
Yeah, which I like that.
Yeah.
That makes it fun to watch too. And I'm hoping when I rewatch it, now knowing exactly what happens, I can pick up on all the foreshadowing and stuff, which again, I've seen so many of these movies and I guessed what was going on early enough that when a character would say something, I'd be like, oh, that's going to come up later on. But I think it's good enough that when you rewatch it, you'll get more out of it.
While we're on the topic of horror movies, my dad finished watching Terrifier. He did not enjoy it.
So if anyone hasn't listened to that previous episode, explain
so,
this.
Our dad, me and Callum's dad, was scrolling through the streaming services and came on Terrifier. He's like, "That looks fun." I'm like, "It's disgusting. You'll hate it." And he's like, "That makes me want to watch it even more." And so he suffered through it.
He's
over
trying
a
to be
couple of nights.
trying to be a strong.
That's it. He's like, "I can watch this movie. I'll watch it if I want to.
Yeah.
The bit more disgusting, the
I'm
better."
not scared.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
I think.
He thought it was unnecessary.
Yeah,
I'm like,
well,
I told you.
That's
That's kind of the point of it. I mean, the director would argue otherwise, I'm sure. But when I talked about how I watched all three of them, I was like, it seems to be the entire point is how far can you push it, and what can you get away with practically on screen. I mean, like what can you get away with practical effects on screen. So it's not a movie or a franchise that that I would watch being like, I'm ready to really sink into this. You know what I mean? It's an exercise in how far can you get uncomfortable.
I remember when, was it Barbarian or was it another movie came out and your dad was like, "Oh, I've heard of that. I heard people were throwing up and walking out." And so when we went to see Barbarian, we were like, "No, this is that movie wasn't so extreme."
Yeah.
And then the next day or whatever you came, you're like, "Oh no, he was thinking of Terrifier. That's what he had heard about." And I'm like, "Oh, that makes sense."
Yeah. He didn't like it. And I'm like, "Do you want to start the second one?" He's like, "No."
Yeah. Isn't the second one like 2.5 hours long?
Probably.
It's insane.
And it's so much worse.
That's insane.
Yeah. Anyway.
Worse in terms of gore,
Yeah, like the first two have, I guess, kind of artistic merit, at least. Like All Hallows Eve is kind of,
Well, that's more like vignettes, like, what do you call it? Anthology, isn't it? Isn't it shorts?
Correct.
Yeah.
Even Terrifier, I believe, is vignettes too, isn't it?
I don't know. I never seen
Terrifier.
The first one.
No.
No, maybe I'm mistaken.
The first one is just Art the Clown hunting two ladies, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The first, the All Hallows Eve is the collection of shorts, and then Terrifier was the first movie, and then Terrifier 2 is the second one. And as someone who...
Yeah, you're correct. I remember now. Yes.
As someone who hasn't seen the movies, and, I like horror movies. I don't really like gory horror movies. Like, I like gore.
The movie has no point.
Yeah, I don't like torture porn movies. Like, I'm like, it's not scary. It's just kind of disturbing. And especially for a movie that's over 2 hours long, I'm like, I don't really care about this. However, I do love the fact that they're using all these practical effects and seeing how far they can go. I do like the fact that... Do you remember when we're talking about like old school horror movie villains? Like, there's no good slasher movie villains anymore. There's no Pinhead, there's no Michael Myers, there's no Jason Voorhees. But now, I think Art the Clown is the closest we've got. But you need
to make a good movie around that.
No, I'm just saying. But I think Art the Clown, like when you just see his face on the poster,
it's
or whatever,
iconic.
It's like, oh, he's a good slasher movie villain, and we don't have a lot of those anymore. I appreciate that.
It's a lack of icons, like when you think about like the way a villain looks on screen. Like it's all bland now. And whereas Art the Clown does have a distinguished look.
Yeah, and like we just talked about with a lot of other horror movies, it's like there is a different wave of horror now where it's like it's not about the slasher movie villain anymore.
Yeah,
it's more about
haunted dolls.
Yeah, or it's about the psychological element of it. But even then, like when there is a villain or whatever, there's not a strong sense of iconography in a lot of movies anymore, and that's a problem with movies now. And it's one of the big reasons why people, us and me especially, complain, oh, they don't make movies like they used to anymore, because you can watch a movie from the 70s, 80s, it might not be that good, but you'll like remember the imagery.
As someone who pretty much exclusively watches old movies at the moment, there's like so many just classic
very strong shots. Just strong iconography, whereas now everything just kind of blends together and it's like, very meh.
I know this is an obvious thing to say, but movies are a visual medium. So it's like when you're making a movie, you have to be thinking in terms of what are people going to remember? How do I make a shot look good on screen? And like we're in the era of like brown, greys and digital lighting and compression and these things.
It's not just looking good. It's like looking distinct from other movies and having a strong iconography. So it's like, Indiana Jones, you have the shadow with the hat, and then you have the rolling, the boulder. and then you have the Golden Idol, and it's so
Moments,
much. It's
yeah.
all these. It's the whole movie is these
cultural moments.
Yeah. And Star Wars, you have the giant ship going, the little ship, and then you have the giant ship following, and you have the Death Star. It's like every part of these movies is like, oh, I remember that. Now we watch a lot of movies, and they might even be quote unquote good movies, but they're just kind of forgettable. And you go,
Yeah.
oh, that looked nice, but I don't really remember it.
Yeah.
And it's the same. It's not just imagery; it's sound, like we were just talking about with sound design, but also music.
Oh, imagine if
we
they were
don't-
designing a lightsaber now.
Like the sound of it would, like I could imagine the laser sword would be fine, although the CGI effect would probably suck. But the sound design wouldn't be as good.
That's what I mean.
If Star Wars didn't exist and they made Star Wars now, the sound design would just be garbage.
Same with the blaster sounds. It'd just be like a gunshot.
Yeah, but I haven't seen what's that Zack Snyder sci-fi
The Rebel
movie?
Moon.
I haven't seen that, but I assume the sound design on that is garbage. But it's not not just sound as well, but then music. Like we think of all these classic movies, and we think of the really memorable themes. Whereas now a lot of movies just, even if the music is good, you just kind of all blends together.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Which is what, like Dune, for example. Dune is the most recent one to have a kind of like a sound that's like unique, you know?
yeah, but even
unique
that,
enough.
I remember, like I criticized at least. I don't know. I think you guys felt the same way. Of the new Dune, like started to get very samey. The same sound, the same.
It did overstay.
They use the same
welcome.
warble. Like,
Yeah,
the
and
entire movie.
the Arabic wailing or whatever, and it's like, okay, we get it. Every time Paul would do something, it would have that sound. I was like, okay, we get it. I don't know. Yeah, that wasn't as. But yeah. Anyway, that was all to say. I haven't seen Terrifier. I'm not really particularly interested.
No.
But I do appreciate it, and I also really appreciate that the third movie is coming out and it's a Christmas movie. I think that's hilarious and a really good move, especially considering how big it's gotten now with the
It'll
second
get me to
movie.
go back in and watch it probably. If
Yeah.
it's a Christmas
Yeah,
movie.
I'll watch
We'll
it.
have,
Yeah,
boys
yeah.
will have to rock up for a Christmas movie.
I've suffered through
Christmas
I've
session.
suffered through the first three.
Yeah.
The other movies I want to talk about, I watched The Day After Tomorrow, a classic.
Oh, yeah. I never liked that movie.
I like it. It's cheesy. The visual effects actually stand up. Well,
I'll have to rewatch it.
look, they've aged well, all things considered.
Okay,
all right?
'cause-
you can show me like special effects from today and special effects from The Day After Tomorrow, and I wouldn't be able to tell them apart.
Well, we've talked
That's
about
not-
before how
that's not
CGI
necessarily-
now sucks. So
I get that's not
early
necessarily
2000 CGI is like,
Yeah, that's not necessarily complimenting
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Day After Tomorrow as much as it is criticizing movies
Yeah,
today. But again, you know what? It holds up. It's a fun time. It's a cheesy movie. I enjoy it.
look, I haven't seen it in a long time, but 90s disaster movies are like one of my favorite genres. And Dante's Peak and movies like then Deep Impact. But by the time we get to Day After Tomorrow, which is like 2004,
Yeah.
I remember just being too much CGI and it being too dumb. Like, I like dumb movies, but I remember even as a kid watching it and being like, this is dumb even for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember not liking the practical effects in the 90s disaster movies, and even the early sort of uses of CGI worked so well. Whereas by the time you get to Day After Tomorrow, it just lost me. And then all the disaster movies after that, most by the same director, Roland Emmerich. He did Day After, like 2012. I'm like, oh yeah, these are just CGI garbage and no fun anymore.
I remember one of the goofiest scenes in The Day After Tomorrow is when they've got like the president there and they've got the emergency management team, and they're like, so what do we do? He's like, just draws a line on the map. They're like, evacuate anyone from below this line.
Evacuate everyone above the line to the south.
Was it?
Yeah.
I thought it was evacuate everyone below because it's too late for everyone above the line.
No, that yeah, you might be right.
That's how I
Yeah.
understood. And they're like, what about these people? They're like, it's too late for them. I'm like,
because they will have to go to Mexico.
I remember-
It's like, let's evacuate
I would be
150
like,
million people to Mexico. I'm
just-
like,
yeah.
does Mexico have any say in this?
they just drew a line on the map. I'm like, I'd be like, is there a bit of, I don't know, time is of the
We're
essence.
gonna build a wall.
But is there any research on this? It's just like, just draw a random line. Like, these people
Don't
die.
be rude.
These people get to live. and we're all going to Mexico,
Yeah.
and they're going to give us social security.
Yeah.
I remember
But it's a fun time.
I remember
right?
one scene where they're literally running away from the cold.
The cold, yeah.
And
yeah.
it's like slowly creeping. I'm like, yeah, this is dumb.
The cold
But
is slowly
it's dumb
creeping into
fun,
the room.
alright? It's dumb fun.
They've got one room where they're like, quick, start a fire. The fire will
Yeah.
stop the cold.
Let's like burn all these important books and not the furniture or whatever they do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Skill issue.
It's fun time, right? I'll fight
Or
you.
how the dad's going to rescue the son, and he like the extreme cold comes to them as well.
Yeah.
And they like dive into this little thing, and they start like the oven.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's like
gas oven, yeah.
the oven's on. Cold
yeah.
can't get me near.
Yeah. Haters. All right, I got a couple more
Look,
things.
it's an alright film. You know, nothing
I've
amazing.
seen
but
worse movies.
It had some goofy.
You know what was a
things.
worst disaster movie? The Core. Do you remember that?
I haven't seen that.
That movie's bad.
Is that they have to go to the center of the earth and jumpstart the core?
Yeah.
All right, I need to watch that movie.
Yeah, I bet you'll like it.
Yeah, probably. It's right up there.
It's classic Nathan.
Yeah. Doing a 180-degree turn here. I also recently watched Julie and Julia, the last Nora Ephron movie.
Ah.
From 2009.
Is that the cooking one?
Yeah.
Oh, I've heard that's good.
I was expecting, like, you know, kind of like, you know, when you've got a director who was amazing in the 80s and then they release a movie, like, later on in their career.
Yeah, it's not
and
as
you're
good.
like, it's not as good. It's a bit...
Mm.
I really enjoyed this movie. It wasn't what I was expecting. I was expecting a cheesy rom-com. It's not that at all.
No.
It's kind of like, it's a great looking movie, first of all. Like, the colors are vibrant. It looks amazing. Just like it's half set in Paris, half set in New York. So you've got kind of two visual aesthetics going on. Like Paris is like, you got that kind of vibe. And then New York, you've got all the different kind of New York architecture. And it looks really nice. Classic Nora Ephron dialogue-driven script with like her narration style, which I really appreciate.
Yeah.
I know not everyone likes narration. But,
Hey, if it's done well.
yeah, it's a slow vibe movie. Not everyone will appreciate. Some people might find it boring. But it's basically it's a nice mixture of like French cooking and post-millennial existential dread. Because like you've got what's the actress's name?
Julianne Moore?
Meryl Streep.
No, straight. Who's the other one though? Is it Julianne?
Amy Adams.
Amy Adams. Oh.
Yeah. So basically, it's about Julia Childs. Meryl Streep plays
Yes.
Julia Childs, and you know she's learning French cooking to teach Americans back home.
It's famous. She's a real life.
Yeah, real
famous,
life. Yeah,
like chef, celebrity chef.
yeah. And it's kind of just like Paris kind of vibe, very kind of relaxed, kind of just learning montage kind of stuff goes on. Cooking, lots of food. And then you got Amy Adams, who's like having a millennial kind of midlife crisis, a quarter life crisis, and she's like, "How do I get through this?" She's like, "I'm going to cook my way through a cookbook and see if that fixes my life." I'm
Yeah.
like, see, it doesn't, but like,
Seems like one of those like wholesome
it's
kind of.
yeah. And it's like basically it's her trying to just not be depressed while cooking food for like the, and it's like it's definitely things like we could probably relate to in the studio. It's
Yeah.
just like, life is shit. Well, how do I survive? I guess food is a good answer.
Let's cook,
Like,
yeah.
let's cook. And it's definitely...
That can also be a bad thing.
Yeah,
Let's
it
eat
is,
and
yeah.
eat and eat.
Yeah. But it's a really good kind of vibe movie, if that makes sense to the audience. It's like, there's a plot. It's not strong on the plot. The movie's more about feel than it is about plot. But I really appreciate it. I didn't expect Nora Ephron to have like kind of, you know, a later movie in her career be so strong. Even though she, you know, is responsible for some of the classics. Usually directors late in
After
their
a
career,
while,
especially kind of, you know, very late in their career, her last film, they're not that good. But this one held up.
Oh yeah, I've heard it's good. I have to say it.
And then I watched The Equalizer, which I know Alan has also seen and is a fan of.
Yes.
It's good. It's very generic. It's serviceable. Come on, man. It's a plot line that's been done 6,000 times.
No, it's nothing.
This is the conversation that happened on Saturday when we went out for dinner. We were talking about Equalizer 3, and I was like, I haven't seen 1 or 2. And
Yes, you
and Alan's like shaking his fist. He's like, what do you mean you haven't seen it? You have to watch it. And I said, I saw the trailer for the first one. And I was like, oh, I've already seen Taken. And he's like, how dare... Oh, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
But this is Taken with Denzel.
It's Taken meets
Yeah,
John Wick.
but it's still like, you know, older kind of action star
no,
kind of...
Look, I like it. It's the only thing that saves this movie is the fact that the action scenes are good, and it avoids the the latter half final confrontation fight dragging out too long. A problem I have with some of these movies is the final fight will go for like 45 minutes, and I'm like,
Depends on the fight. Like sometimes it's awesome.
but I get bored. You know, it's like
if it's like an old like action guy, he's obviously not in his prime. The fight shouldn't be gone for 45 minutes.
Yeah, but it's an action movie. You have to. But
the final fight in the Equalizer was nice. It was tight. Like it didn't need to take all day, and I appreciated that. It was done well enough. And while I have another minute or two, if I can have another minute or two, I watched Bestseller with James Woods for the first time.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one.
I hadn't seen it either, and it was a surprise.
Man, you know what? I personally don't agree with the man's politics.
Oh yeah, he's an asshole.
But man, his catalogue of movies is up there with the best.
Yeah,
He's
like
such
classic-
a great actor.
Classic James
He's
Woods
one
is-
of those. He's one of those actors. I'm like, I will separate the art from the man.
Yeah. I think it's also good that, he did like 70s, 80s, 90s, and then after that, it's like, don't really have to pay attention to him anymore.
No,
So,
it's him and Brian Dennehy, and it's kind of like a buddy cop movie, 1987, peak. But the twist is James Woods is the bad guy, and he has to team up with the cop, right? James Woods is a nasty dude. It's a great time.
As he is in real life.
As he is in real life. Well, I mean, he doesn't go quite so far in real life as he does in the movie. In the movie, he's like a mob hitman.
Yeah.
And it's a tasty time. It's good. I was very surprised. I hadn't heard about this movie, really.
Yeah.
I didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did, considering I thought I knew all the good ones, There you go. I didn't.
Nice.
Yeah, that's all I have for the boys. Callum, anything notable from your Blu-ray stack?
Yeah, I got a few.
How much time we got?
No, I'm only going to talk about 3 this week.
Oh, good.
I watched The Maltese Falcon from 1941.
Oh, beautiful.
With Humphrey Bogart, the man playing the classic Sam Spade, Raymond Chandler's Sam Spade. Raymond Chandler?
Yeah.
I'll look it up.
Playing Sam, the famous
detective.
private detective Sam Spade. It's just awesome. I mean, obviously it's a classic screenplay, classic novel, so it's got the great twists built into it, that type of thing. But man, Bogart was such a legend.
Bogart's my favorite actor of all time.
Yeah, like his noir sensibilities are about as keen as they can possibly get.
Samuel Dashiell Hammett wrote the books.
Oh, Hammett. Yes.
Yeah. I thought it was one of the two.
Yeah. Bogart's also been in his Raymond Chandler adaptation as well. So, Bogart's my favorite. I've seen not all of his, most of his movies.
Yeah.
I own most of his movies.
Yeah.
The Maltese Falcon is one of top 2 sort of quintessential film noir that you have to watch.
It's so good. Anyway, I can't say much more that hasn't been said already.
Yeah.
Now
you have to watch Casablanca.
I have.
Oh, he has to watch Casablanca.
Yeah.
I watched it on 4K, man. That was awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
That transfer, so good.
Did you get Maltese Falcon on 4K?
No, so I've been trying to save money, but it was in my stack, and I was at JB Hi-Fi with silent producer Christian one time, and then I'm just walking around while he's looking at his computer stuff that I can't afford, and then I saw it right there in 4K, and I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
I'm making the same mistake I did with the Deer Hunter, but it is what it is.
But yeah, I've been trying to be good and not buy Blu-rays at all anymore.
To be fair,
Just
it's
buy
a nice
4Ks.
edition of the Maltese Falcon on Blu-ray that we have. So
Oh, it's still good. But
it looks great, but
but you'd rather have the
After that, I watched The Marathon Man from 1976.
Nice.
And I'd never seen this one before. Dustin Hoffman plays a graduate student. How about that? Dustin Hoffman plays a graduate. A graduate
He's
student.
being
He hasn't
typecast.
graduated yet.
Even
So
how
maybe
old was he in that
this
movie
is the
though?
prequel movie to The Graduate.
How old was he in that movie though? Because
Older.
Yeah, because it's he played. I know he's got a young, youthful kind of look in the movie, but
Yeah.
he was too old to play that character.
He's definitely too old for the role.
Yeah.
But it's a thriller about a man whose brother may or may not be involved with some type of
It's like CIA or
intelligence agency, and then
Yeah.
there's a crime element involved, and he has to run for his life. And man, the second best runner after Tom Cruise.
something. You heard it here first,
Yeah,
folks.
Dustin Hoffman does some great running in The Marathon Man.
I would hope so.
Second best.
No, sorry,
Second best
because
runner. I'm going to write that down just in case we need a title. Second best runner.
because it's made in the 70s. Now, James has said, "Oh, you always say this when you watch these old movies." It's like the best looking Blu-ray I've ever seen. So
yeah, every time you watch any Blu-ray, you're like, "This movie is the best Blu-ray ever."
No,
and I'm
but
like,
this
"But
one-
it's just an old Blu-ray."
no, but this one's special, and this is like this is
Okay.
like a first generation. Like this was like the first Blu-ray release of Marathon Man I've got.
Mm.
We've got, but it looks so clear.
Mm.
Like I watch a lot of Blu-rays. I can
I
tell
think-
what looks normal Blu-ray,
Yeah,
what looks
we
what's an extra good
were talking about
transfer.
this the other day though, and I was like, maybe it's just upscaling on your TV or your player.
I just have a laser Blu-ray player. You know what I mean? It's just a cheap Blu-ray player.
Yeah,
It has to be the fact that it was shot on film and it wasn't shot.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
but still, Blu-ray, like well done Blu-ray masters are
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
Unpopular. Actually, no, we're probably 50-50 in this room. If you said to me, here's an average 4K, a really good Blu-ray, like a really good Blu-ray, or like an averagely done 4K, I'd be like, I'll take the Blu-ray, thank you.
There's
Yeah.
often little difference between them.
Usually, the HDR on the 4K is the biggest reason to upgrade. Otherwise, like picture quality, like unless
Yeah.
you're one of those guys who counts pixels,
Yeah.
like usually
mean-
it's pretty.
Especially these days when it's even the digital film, even like the films today, if they're shot digitally, they're probably mastered at 2K anyway. I'm just like,
Yeah, I just
Am I getting the 4K pixels? I'm not always.
Yeah.
You're not always.
yeah. It
So
depends
what-
on the master.
What
a
makes
lot of
Marathon
time.
Man so great is that not only is the acting good, Dustin Hoffman's a top tier actor, but the screenplay is so
It's a very
tense.
tense thriller.
Yeah, there's very little downtime. Once it gets going, it doesn't stop till the credits roll. So it's like you're on the edge of your seat the whole time.
And
it must have been crazy watching it in the cinemas.
Laurence Olivier plays the villain. Nathan, can you look up Laurence Olivier, Dustin Hoffman acting story?
Yeah, and let me tell you, he is not safe. If you've watched the movie, that's a reference. Yeah.
I was talking to you the other day. I'm like the teeth pulling scene.
Oh, the way he screams in that scene.
Oh.
He screams. That's again Dustin Hoffman. He
Second
screams-
best runner, best screamer.
Yeah, no, but he screams with like an animal ferocity. It's like
Yeah.
you haven't normally like.
He's a good yeller.
He's a good.
Yeah, like
yeller.
Outbreak is one of my favorite movies. We mentioned it a little while ago about like disease thrillers and that. And there's a bit where he's like getting really angry at like his superior officer, and he's a bit where he swears at the guy, and I can't do it because we're live, but it's one of my favorite swears in movies.
Dustin Hoffman has long been known as one of method acting's most earnest exponents.
Yeah.
A showbiz story involves his collaboration with Laurence Olivier in the 1976 film Marathon Man. Upon being asked by his co-star how a previous scene had gone, one in which Hoffman's character has supposedly stayed up for 3 days, Hoffman admitted that he too had not slept for 3 days to achieve emotional verisimilitude. My dear boy, replied Olivier smoothly, why don't you just try acting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Classic.
So yeah, that's a really great movie. Then I followed it up by 2004's Man on Fire with Denzel Washington.
Mm-hmm. There you go. Denzel double feature.
Yeah,
Equalizer.
and I really liked that one as well. I thought it was pretty good. It wasn't perfect, but it looked nice. The colors were nice. It's set in Mexico.
Yeah.
And Mexico?
Is it orange?
Well, it's set in South America. I believe it's Mexico.
I think it was Mexico.
But it's not. It doesn't have that yellow tint that they tend to give Mexico for American.
It's Tony
productions.
Scott, so it's probably blue.
No, not really.
Yeah, it was a joke. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it was really great. Denzel Washington doesn't pull any punches. It's like an action movie where the guy like just straight up kills people.
Yeah.
Like the Equalizer.
Yeah.
Yeah, except the Equalizer is like a fun, over the top, almost John Wick-esque.
Yeah.
But this
Whereas
one's like,
Man on Fire is like a more down to earth,
Yeah.
grungy.
so what's interesting about Man on Fire is it's quite a long film, but the first hour is just like a relationship
Yeah,
drama.
because it's developing the relationship between him and the girl, Dakota Dakota Fanning. Dakota Fanning.
Peter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Peta, yeah.
Anyway, and I thought that was really interesting that they really took their time to
Yeah.
let things
Yeah.
roll
It's
for
more
while.
like a crime drama
and then it turns
thriller.
into like a John Wick style revenge thing.
Yeah, but that's what I was trying to explain to Nathan.
Like the latest
Unlike-
Rambo movie.
Yeah, unlike Equalizer, which is stylistically more fantastical, like a John Wick
Yeah.
movie, Man on Fire is more grungy,
definitely, yeah.
grounded,
yeah,
and
definitely.
more violent in terms of like realist, and also that comes with the relationship drama and the psychological element of Creasy. Is that?
Creasy, yeah,
Yeah.
Creasy, yeah.
See, I haven't seen that movie in years, but I do remember parts of it, which I think that means it's good.
Yeah, it's a memorable
Like I
film.
was saying with Iconography, it's like I haven't seen Man on Fire in 15 years, 10, 15 years, but I remember the names, I remember some scenes. There's a
Yeah.
rocket launcher scene.
There is a rocket launcher scene, yeah.
So it's like Tony Scott's one of those directors who's like, the movie might not be the best, but you're going to remember it. Like
Yeah.
it's going to be strong visually.
It's like a movie I wasn't going to talk about today, but I watched Beverly Hills Cop 2 last night. That's like, it's not the best movie, but it's memorable.
Even the third one, like people shit on the third one. I love the third one.
Like that. Look, number 2, it's not better than the first one, obviously.
The
But
first
like,
one's the best.
Yeah, but like it's the Judge Reinhold show, and every scene he's in, he's amazing.
So good.
And there's a rocket launcher scene in number 2 where they're trying to work out how to use a rocket launcher.
Yeah.
And then it fires and they blow up a truck, and they're just like, cool.
I really,
Iconography. I'm gonna remember that movie.
yeah, I really am not looking forward to Beverly Hills
was it
Cop 4.
Axel, whatever it's called.
Yeah, whatever it's
Axel
called.
Foley or something.
Yeah. But it is nice to see like Judge Reinhold and the other guy, what's his name?
Yeah.
And Eddie Murphy back together.
Yeah.
I'll
Yeah,
give it a watch.
that's,
But I'm sure I will watch the fourth one, and even if I go, oh, that was okay, I will not remember one single thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I haven't seen any of the Beverly Hills Cop movies, the first 3 in a while, and I can tell you
Yeah.
specific scenes
Yeah.
and lines.
I think maybe that's
Lemon
what this
twist.
that's
Lemon
what this
twist.
episode's all about.
Yeah.
Iconography.
Achwell?
Yeah.
Achwell? Iconography, that's the name
That's
of the
name.
episode.
Iconography.
Iconography.
Yeah, that's
Sorry,
about all.
Callum, go on.
No, that's about all I've got. Next week, God willing, I'll have a trilogy of
Yeah, spaghetti.
gunslinging westerns.
Spaghetti westerns.
We might go to a very quick break before we come back to what Alan and James have been watching. We'll be back right after this. You are back on the Tuesday review. Coming back down to Alan Deep on the table. What have you been watching for us lately, Alan?
I finished the 2nd season of Invincible on Amazon Prime.
Oh,
Very
don't
good.
no spoilers,
No
no
spoilers.
Yeah, if you don't want to get spoiled, you better watch it.
Yeah, they did that stupid thing where they stopped halfway
They
through
did,
the
they did.
season, and I was like, I'm just gonna wait, but I'm like hoping not to get spoiled because I've heard some juicy.
Yeah, like if you're on, especially YouTube or something else, you're just
Yeah.
asking for it. It's a hard time, so you should probably watch it sooner rather than later.
Hmm.
I was also taken by the season break.
I hate when they.
I
do
didn't
that.
realize it was happening, so I started watching. I'm like, it's just
Yeah.
gonna be, a couple of weeks. It wasn't. It was a while, and I was upset. But thankfully, this was the 8th episode, I think, released last week towards the end.
Yeah.
Gave it a watch. A solid season. Definitely left me wanting more,
Hmm.
but progressing the story quite nicely. They did one episode, as I kind of learned it because I haven't read the comics. It was, I think, a comic chapter actually had that meta-ness about it, where I guess he goes to a comic book convention and they discuss how they draw comic book scenes and that kind of stuff. And obviously, this being the animation, it still ended up going to a comic book convention, but it was based on a comic book that got made into an animation. And so they did a meta discussion on like how they animate, talking scenes and how they save budget by just having a freeze frame of people in like an area that looks like they're moving but they're not.
Yeah.
There's that Simpsons gag where Homer's walking in the background.
Yeah.
In the same scene. Yeah.
Yeah,
Similar-
cartoons don't have to be realistic, and then
There's a similar scene where like sometimes the animators go too far and put extra effort in, and you just see Mark's face, and it's like super detailed and weird. And I thought that was it was again learning about how it had originally been, in the comic. I think that's a good adaptation to actually
it's
put in
fun.
animation.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the goal, right? Adaptation is not necessarily a straight one-to-one
Yeah.
all the time. Context is important.
I've
too.
heard that it's not 100% one-to-one to the book anyway,
Yeah.
but it seems like they're doing a good job.
Yeah.
Kind of like when we talked about The Boys, where I'm like, I've heard they're just going in their own direction now, but it's still really good.
Yeah, again, adaptation it doesn't always have to be 100% faithful. You look at Lord of the Rings; it's not 100% faithful.
Yeah.
but it's a good adaptation.
As Hallam's going to find out.
Oh, as I was actually going to mention that.
What?
I just started Lord of the Rings.
You never seen the movies?
No,
Talk about iconography.
the book.
The books. Yeah.
Okay.
And instantly, I'm like, wait a minute. Like,
Yeah.
first of all, there was like this whole hoo-ha and like discussion, which I'm like, is this what the Silmarillion's all about? Well, I'm like, these guys are cops and this and
Oh,
that.
boy,
and that.
no,
And
yeah,
I'm like, quiet, Dad. Just start with the story, damn it. But then once they start the story of like the Shire and how Bilbo's having a big party, the scale of the party is nothing in the movie compared to the way it's shown.
It's pretty big in the movie.
It's still
Everything in the book is bigger.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's, you know, that's just a side discussion, but it's a good little adventure.
Wait till you get the bumper deal.
In terms
Little
of
yellow boots.
one of my gripes, and I think a lot of people's gripes from season 1,
With Invincible.
yeah, his girlfriend Amber. In the original comics, she happens to be a white lady. In the show, she happens to be a black lady, which I don't think is anything particularly important. But there has been a instance of like, with the race change of the person, they also change their personality quite a bit. And some of them have to be sharper and smarter than the original counterpart. The character was just very, very unlikable in season 1. Did you guys end up watching season 1?
I watched season one, but it was back when it aired.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what's it been? 2?
I watched season
3
1 and like the episode
The Adam Eve.
the Adam Eve, yeah.
Yeah. So in it, basically, she's, you know, the superhero identity is discovered, which I don't think is a huge spoiler.
Yeah,
It's very common, but she is just very much like, I don't care, you're still a bad boyfriend, and it's like, but the guy was dying and saving the world. Like, you got to have some understanding. Anyway,
I feel like that's just a trope now with a lot of shows.
They thankfully did, I feel, change up her character arc this season. Whereas she still has that difficulty being a normal human being dating a superhero. And there are huge issues that would arise in that. But it's not... She's coming at from genuine frustrations rather than being a just dislikable kind of human being.
Yeah, she's more of a 3D character than a 2D character.
Yeah, which I think is quite well done. So... Pretty good watch.
It sucks that it's been so long since the first season that I'm like, I should go back and watch the first season, but I have so little time that I'm like, I don't even have time to watch the second season.
That's why I've been watching movies more than TV. I'm like,
I haven't even been watching.
I can commit to a movie, a 90-minute movie. Committing to a TV show is a different issue.
Yeah,
I'm trying to get
but
back
at least with
into
the TV show, you can watch like an hour a day.
Yeah.
Whereas a movie, I don't like splitting it up, so I
don't have that problem.
Yeah, that I hate how you guys watch movies.
I can if I have to. I can.
I'm on James' side. Like, you watch a movie, you watch the damn movie.
Yeah, you sit down and you watch it. You put your phone down.
A lot of the time I do, but like if I have to turn it off, I'll turn it off.
No,
Yeah, but
no
then,
way.
It's life.
But then do you restart the movie from the start when next time you watch it, or do you...
No, I just resume.
They watch it like a TV show. It's like, I got halfway through. I'll come back
Yeah.
later and watch.
Yeah,
I can't do that.
no,
I hate it.
it's wrong. There's something
It's bad.
inherently wrong.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, leaving things partway through, this is probably the third time, maybe the fourth time, I've started Reservoir Dogs, and I've had to let it go. And I'm just like,
watch it, man.
No,
It's one movie.
the universe is literally
What?
against me watching the movie.
It's a good film.
It's a great movie.
No, I'm
Is
not
this one
saying-
of those things where the universe is preventing it because if Alan watches that movie, like 6 dozen steps down the line, he's Hitler? Is that one of those things where it's like...
Oh, he starts cutting people's ears
some
off.
kind of time traveler like
Yeah.
comes in, gets me out of it, and we're like,
you can't watch... I'm going to
can't
sit
watch-
you down. You can't watch this because things will happen in your life and then all of a sudden you're a dictator.
But if they tell me
Did
that,
you ever watch Heroes?
I did,
With the guy with the sword?
yeah.
Like that version of Alan will come through and be like, you can't watch
Yeah.
Reservoir
Yeah.
Do
Dogs.
not watch
But
Reservoir
it's like,
Dogs.
it's like
Alan
ripped,
with an eye patch.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
ripped, cool Alan with an eye patch. He's like,
Yeah.
I can't let you do
I'm
this,
you from the
Alan.
future.
Yeah. It's like a Terminator situation.
Yeah, I can't let you watch
the
this.
thing is, obviously, if that person would come through, that would change the timeline to the point where I do that anyway. So they're subtly,
Yeah.
subtly stopping me.
Alan's
yeah.
personality type, they can't overtly block
Yeah.
him. They have to just subtly
They have
influence.
to
Yeah.
get my uncle to call me or something, or have my sister come over and need some help. And
We
then-
should, if there's a screening of it, we should go because then you're at the cinema and like you can't really be. Although
Nah, but the
then
universe
something
would-
will happen.
Again,
like,
something worse will happen. The universe pushes back.
Yeah.
Let's not tempt fate.
Yeah.
So we'll I'll try
One
to.
day.
I'm going to try it again when I get home, and see what
Alright.
happens. Like I'm also willing to push the universe around.
Yeah.
I ain't afraid of no ghost. But every single time I've tried to watch it, like something has just come up, and I'm like, I guess I won't watch it today. Then.
Yeah, because I keep telling you watch it because you always talk about how much you love Pulp Fiction and
Oh yeah, I'm a huge fan of Quentin Tarantino, and like
yeah, I love Pulp Fiction, but I think I've always preferred Reservoir Dogs. I'm not sure exactly why.
It's rawer. It's less polished.
I have watched the Indian or Bollywood rip-off.
That's
of Reservoir
hilarious.
Dogs, in which I realize, spoiler alert, one of the guys is a cop and this and that.
Yeah.
But their view is the cops are after them because they're Indians.
Wait, what?
Yeah, that's because it starts off with all of them getting arrested.
But aren't the cops also Indian?
Yeah, the cops also Indians.
Is it like because
It's an
they're
undercover
different?
Indian cop.
Is it one of those things where it's like we were talking about this the other day, where it's like you've got the Japanese live action movies or TV shows of animes like what is it? What's the one?
Full Metal
Alchemist, where it's like they just put a blonde wig on a guy and it's
yeah,
like a Japanese actor,
they're
like he's
European-
German now. Is it a
Yeah,
situation
the
like
European
that?
characters,
Where
but
it's like
Japanese actors.
It's the Indian Reservoir Dogs, but it's set in like Boston or something.
Oh
It's
yeah,
all Indian
it is set in a Western country.
Yeah, that makes
Oh.
sense. Yeah, no, that makes sense then. So they're after them because they're Indian, but it's not
that's
set in India.
hilarious.
Yeah, so they all get
So-
arrested in separate occasions.
So the cops are played by Indian actors, but technically they're American cops.
Yeah, they're playing American characters.
So they're like
That's hilarious.
I think they're American, or they might be somewhere because it's cheaper.
Yeah,
to-
It's
but
so
they're not
weird.
Indian.
They
It's so
save
weird.
like a solid $50 filming in somewhere in Europe versus America.
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
hiring European actors to speak English as if they're American.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they always do that in movies for some reason. But it's supposed to be like a Western police force, a Western country, and they have an undercover Indian guy who's gonna go hunt the other Indians.
Yeah, but that makes sense because they're not Indian. They're playing,
Yeah. And so that's their excuse. They're like, the cops always coming after us because we're brown, and they're like, let's teach them a lesson. Let's rob a bank. And I'm like, I don't think that's. I mean, aren't you proving their point? But overall, I think this obviously. I need to watch the original Reservoir Dogs first before I can say it. But I think it does hit a lot of the notes of, a bit of torture, undercover copness, and that sort of thing. Obviously, it can't tell the story one-to-one ever because I don't think there's as much.
Oh, the Indian version. Yeah.
So I'll be happy to see. It's just like how I watched the Indian Fight Club before I watched the actual Fight Club. And I'm like, they had nothing to do with each other.
That's the thing, though, is that's why it's so wild every time they remake everything. And I'm like, there are cultural differences, but also there's just rules of things they can't do and say and show. And so it's always hilarious when they're like, oh, there's the Bollywood version of Oldboy. And it's like, why? You can't do anything in the movie that's in the original.
But that's also what makes it so interesting for us to talk about.
Yeah. And that's
It's like,
why it's
how do they
funny when
navigate-
Alam's always like, I saw this one.
Yeah,
I'm
how
like,
do they
what?
navigate the challenges of a different cultural context
Yeah.
and rules and what you were saying, like, legislation and rules and sort of the
Censorship,
guidances and censorship issues.
Yeah.
So, hopefully tonight, maybe if not tonight, if the universe gets in the way again, we'll have to start investigating.
We have to pray to the Tarantino gods.
Yeah. Well, we at the very least have to
They're all barefoot.
do some kind of scientific research on, universal meddling and time travel. Maybe we'll watch, what's that one? 12 Monkeys?
Yeah, that's a great movie.
Yeah. So we'll turn into
We'll get you watching Pi.
Oh, I got my 4K of Pi, but I haven't had time to watch it yet.
I think you'd enjoy Pi, actually. It's a challenging
It's
one.
it's Darren Aronofsky.
It's his first movie.
It's very complicated. You'd enjoy it.
Have you ever seen Primer?
No.
That's a good
I'd
one.
be
Double feature.
interested if he
A
would,
stressful
if
double feature.
I'd be interested to see if Alan liked Primer or if he thinks it's just garbage.
Which one? Wait.
Primer's the time travel one. Pi is about a man who believes he's has the equation to explain the universe, kinda.
Yeah, they're like
figures out
mathy
the-
movies.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
They're both good.
they're like more like hard sci-fi, but not.
So
Yeah.
first we'll start with Reservoir Dogs. If that fails, we'll get into the science of why I can't watch Reservoir Dogs.
We'll get the string, the red string, and it'll be
Yeah.
like, okay, when Alan tries to watch. The temperature is and
Turns out
and
we're in
at
our
exactly,
version-
yeah, and
we're in our
exactly
version of Primer.
yeah, at exactly 10:46 p.m.
The phone rings.
Yeah,
This is where it's a variable because it could be could be his dad, could be his uncle, could be his sister. You never know. Could be a cousin.
But that is all I have seen. Again, hoping to watch something, but yeah, you do what you can.
All right. You got
Okay.
anything for us, James?
I've only got 5 minutes.
No, you got more time. We
Oh, is that Manny not coming? All right, yeah, we'll see. Let me have a look. So, the last couple of weeks, I have been moving into my new house, and so I haven't had a lot of time to watch anything.
you should be watching Home Improvement.
That's the last thing I've been wanting to do. But I've been just so busy. I've been, like I was saying to you earlier, it's sometimes easier just to watch an episode of a show because it's like 40 minutes to an hour maybe, and then go to bed or whatever. So I have been watching Ripley.
Is it good?
Which is pretty good.
I like the fact that it's black and white.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've got 2 more episodes to go, so I'll talk about it after it's finished. But that's what I've been watching, like, you know, 1 episode a night or every second night. I watched You'll Never Find Me because I wanted to catch up on that one from Myth. Callum, you want to talk about Antlers? Okay.
Are we going to fight?
We'll keep it simple. A couple weeks ago, Alan watched Antlers, a 2021 horror movie. He's like, it's awesome. It's so good. 4 stars on Letterboxd. Oh my God, amazing. Yeah. I'm like, and then he starts talking about Jesse Plemons is in it. I'm like, oh my God, I have to watch this movie. So I go home, I watch this movie. It's fine. I gave it 2 stars. Like, I'd never watch it again. And then Callum got real salty.
2 stars to me is something that's pretty bad.
For me, 2 stars is it's okay. I probably won't watch it again. Whereas 1 star is it's bad. Don't watch it.
And listeners, there was a time where James was banned from watching movies over this review.
Yeah, Callum banned me from watching movies because he's like, that you can't do that.
First Carnage Park.
Yeah.
2 stars.
But you're 0 for 2, my boy. Like Carnage Park, you blew smoke, and Antlers, you blew smoke, and they're both like 2-star
someone
films.
else in the studio needs to watch Antlers, and then we have a definitive answer.
But see, Nathan has questionable taste, so I feel like
it's up to Alan.
Yeah, Alan might be having more of a.
All right.
Don't be rude.
Yeah. Also, the CGI in Antlers is really bad.
Yeah, but they don't use it all the time.
No, it's enough to ruin. Yeah, but anyway, I just wanted to say that because you brought it up on last week or the week before. We're like, shaking your fist.
We'll get the definitive. Statement on Antlers after Alan's watched it.
I don't trust Alan either.
No, he can be fair. He can be fair. Trust me.
Fair.
Look,
he might like it just to
spite me.
I do like to spite James and break.
Yeah, because just to break my balls, he'd be like, "It's the best movie
for the
I've ever
show."
seen.
Alan will actually. I'm sure he'll have an open mind and watch it and tell us how he really feels.
Yeah, but anyway,
and then I just end up watching Equalizer 3. I'm like, get on it, boys.
Yeah, it's like, why have you? Yeah.
It's what you expect.
Yeah, put that on the poster. The Equalizer 3. It's what you expect.
You saw the first 2.
You might as well. The only other thing I watched recently was a 2021 horror movie called We're All Going to the World's Fair, which I've been meaning to see since it came out a few years ago and just never got around to watching it. And I really wanted to watch it. And the writer-director has a new movie coming out called that's being released by A24 called I Saw the TV Glow, which looks awesome, and I'm really hyped for it. So I'm like, okay, I better watch the first movie. And like I said, I haven't had a lot of time, and it was really late last night, and I had to get up in the morning for work, and it was raining. And I was like, you know what? This is kind of like the perfect time to watch it. Even though I shouldn't and I should just go to bed, I'm just going to put it on. And so it was pitch black and it's raining outside. And it was a good atmosphere to watch this movie that is not really a horror movie. A lot of horror movie fans, when they watch something that ends up being more like a psychological drama or a thriller, they get really mad. And like, this isn't horror. You lied. And I'm like, but if it's good, it's still good. And this has horror elements, but yeah, it's more like psychological drama, some like those kind of elements. And it's a very low budget film. It takes place mostly in one location. It's about a teenage girl who's like, she just like stays up all night watching like YouTube videos, and like she gets sucked into this sort of rabbit hole of sort of creepypastas and
sounds like someone in the studio.
Yeah,
I don't think Alan's into creepypastas, is he?
I do a bit of creepypasta here.
You on the no sleep? No sleep?
No.
Oh, you got to go down the no sleep train. I'll send you some. But yeah, she gets on that sort of thing of like internet lore and creepypastas and analog horror, and she starts kind of getting really into it, and she starts making her own videos, and it's creepy, and it's dark,
unsettling.
Yes, but it's more about her psychological, just being a sort of 14, 15-year-old girl, whatever, being no friends. She doesn't really get along with her. She lives with her dad, but she doesn't really go. It's a really good movie at portraying and generating the feeling of like loneliness and isolation, and just being alone in your room, like watching videos all night and not really having an outside kind of social life or anything. And I thought it was very effective, and it kind of stayed with me the next day. So yeah, I thought it was really good, and it's like I said, it's really low budget, so they do, you know, it's more about the creativity of just filming in small spaces and using the multimedia aspect of, you know, watching the videos. There's like the screen life aspect where you see it on the, and then there's other like webcam footage of her watching the screen, and then there's the outside kind of normal movie sort of framing of it, shooting of it. So
yeah,
it's really cool, really
few
creepy.
Different framing devices.
Yeah, and I love that whole analog horror, creepypasta kind of side of the internet, and so it's cool that they've the way the director has sort of created that in the movie, and also is even though it's about a young girl in the 2020s, which should be, I guess, Gen Z or whatever, like it's the director, like it's very millennial kind of view of the internet. Like, remember old YouTube before like 2010, like before it got really commercial and everything was an algorithm and everything was like that Mr. Beast kind of, and it was just a weird place where people would sort of put up weird videos and you'd find really weird stuff. And I feel like this movie kind of...
It's an ode
to that. And also, yeah, just like there's also this cringe element of like kids making edgy videos online and how you can fall down. And if you're a young person who's alone, you can fall down that rabbit hole and start to latch onto that and sort of start to get some dangerous ideas, especially if you're already vulnerable. You start watching these edgy videos online and stuff. Yeah, I thought it was really effective, and I'm really hyped for I Saw the TV Glow, the next movie. So when that comes out, we definitely should go and see it.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's it.
That's all the time we've got for tonight, everyone. Thank you for listening. Please follow us on Newsmast, on Facebook, Threads, and Instagram, on Twitter and Blue Sky.
Blue Sky, yeah.
And also on our
Tuesday
YouTube.
Review AU.
On all platforms. Also, please follow us and ring that bell on YouTube. Mm-hmm. New videos coming every day. We've just uploaded a few more of the PAX videos of our like footage, interviews at PAX. So they're a good time. Yeah.
Make sure you subscribe because there's more videos coming, and we're hoping to interview more people and go to more places and upload more video content.
It's going to be an exciting year, hopefully.
Yeah. Follow us on Letterboxd so you can see what we're watching, and if you want us to talk about on the show, you just let us know. My username is channeldrifter.
Mine is Nathan B_90.
Alum20.
Callum Tuesday.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll be back next week. Adios, cousins.